probably have a question too if you have that sort of question going. So, okay, so the essay 3 is review of literature. What exactly is this? Okay, it's going to be worth 9 points. What you do a good job on this, all right? By the way, if you got a 6 out of 9 or a 5 out of 9 in any one of the previous essays, you can still revise those things. Don't let those points be on the table. But you can ask for feedback, all right? The way you ask for feedback is just copy and paste the essay exactly as it is in your box onto an email. Tell me what grade you got, and then I want you to affirm that you watched the models, because I'm not going to really, it's a time investment for me too, and you need to watch those models first. I put models up there for level 1 and level 2 for the fly, for Farewell My Mailbox. If you can tell me I've already watched the models, I still would like some help. Here's what I got, 6 out of 9, here's my work. Then I'll look at it and I'll give you a voice email, and I'll try to do it fast, but Jordan knows it could be a while, but I apologize for that again. That was my problem. I need to be faster with this, but I will give you some feedback. I'll try to help you get those points back, okay? Same thing with this. This is going to be worth 9 points. The thing about this is it's going to be a compilation of summaries. So this is not going to involve a lot of evaluation. I'm going to give you a lot of guidance as to what actually to write, because I want to model this for you, and eventually this is going to be part of the first part of Essay 4. So we're going to use this for Essay 4 too. But a review of literature is an essay in its own right. It can stand alone as a piece of writing. And its job is simply to summarize for the readers a couple of important sources that are out there, or representative sources that are out there about a topic. So a review of literature is always going to be about sources that themselves are about X. X is just whatever you're studying. In this case, X is breakfast habits. Okay? So the review of literature is about sources that are about breakfast. Now, for our assignment, I have picked 4 general categories of sources. We're going to do a scholastic journal article. We're going to do a report. We're going to do a popular article. Site, because it's a website. Now, by popular, I mean it's not like everyone likes it. That's not what I mean. I mean that it's addressed to the people, the populace, the people at large. So it's not going to be technical. It's not going to be long and demanding. It's not going to be full of strange words and syntax that it's like you read 3 lines and you're like, whoa, that was all one sentence. What did that mean? It's not going to be full of notes and sources and all. It's just going to be, hey, here's just a piece of writing for you to read while you're waiting for the doctor to call your number or whatever, or you're waiting for the mechanic. So it's that sort of article, short, easy to read, easy to understand, often thought-provoking, often interesting. It's Farewell My Mailbox, okay? That's a popular article. We're going to do that, and then we're going to do a book. All right, so these are the basic types. Now, I've already picked them. This is coming from a journal called Circulation. We're going to see that in a second. This one is a report about how many males between 18 and 34 skip breakfast, 31 million. This is about nifty, unique, interesting breakfasts of the stars, if you want to call it. And then this is about, well, we'll see this. This is just basically a glorified memoir / cookbook. So anyway, I've already got them. You'll see them in a second. But all you are going to have to do is just summarize these. So how many paragraphs do you think we can do at a minimum? Well, maybe 5, right? Sort of introduce it really quickly. I would expect that to be like a shorter paragraph. And then 1 paragraph for this, a paragraph for this, a paragraph for this, a paragraph for this. I don't want you to think like you have to think in paragraphs this way, but it could be a way to start it up. 5 paragraphs. Now, when you actually come to write it, you might realize, well, actually, this one, I want to split this up into 3 paragraphs. So you end up with 8. Okay, that's fine. But the basic idea is you got 4 things to summarize here. All right? So, and then you're done. So don't feel, you might want an intro, but I'm going to put quick. And then you might want a quick conclude. You know what? I don't want to use a conclusion. A quick end or wrap up. And then I'm going to put if any. So, because you might not even need that. But if you want to do that, well, then you might have another small paragraph. So, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That might work. Again, if you want a couple paragraphs in here, it might be 8 or 9. You get the idea. But please don't feel like you have to find a unifying theme for all of this or come up with a thesis. This is not information. This is not argumentative. This is just information. You're just giving information to your reader. And that's why the review of literature very often is simply part of a larger work, and it usually happens toward the beginning. When the author of that larger work introduces the topic, hey, I'm writing about mental illness, schizophrenia. Here's what exactly I'm going to focus on. So there's your narrow topic: schizophrenia in young teenage males in California or something. And then you present to the reader a review of literature. Now, the word literature here has nothing to do with like a short story or a novel or a film or poetry or anything like that. Okay? It's just what you're saying is, hey, there's critical work out there on this topic. There's work out there on the topic. This is what the work is saying. Now, if we were to like find everything that is written on breakfast or health and wellness, and how many articles and stuff are we going to find? Like 100,000? I don't know. Small little website articles, books, journal articles. I mean, there's just a ton of them. Documentaries. So the idea is you're not summarizing all of them, but you're trying to do 2 things. And if you can't do both, do at least one of them. Ideally, you will be able to find the sources that are really closely aligned to your specific topic and that are well known. And you'll see this happening, okay? You'll see it happen, not maybe so much in this class, but when you get involved in a research project later on at a higher level class and you know how to really access your sources and read them, you'll find that this one author over here mentions this study Y, by authors Q and P. And then this other author over here mentions study Y by Q and P. And this book over here mentions study Y by Q and P. And all of a sudden you're realizing study Y by Q and P is pretty famous, in this little conversation, in this group of people. So obviously, that might be a source you would want to summarize in your review of literature. If you run across sources that are just so well written or they've been so well received that they're sort of famous in their own little sphere, you might want to summarize those ones, okay? I really don't see that happening with us. Okay, so let's do the other thing we can do with the review of sources. So you basically tell your reader, hey, if people write on this topic, they kind of write this way. They kind of write these sorts of things. Okay, so we'll especially do this with the books. And so we end up summarizing and talking about a type of book. What do you think is the type of book that just like floods the population of things we call books about breakfast? I mean, what do you think would be a very, very common book? A cookbook. Yeah, I can't. Now, they'll give it a fancier name. It's more like a recipe. It's funny, you don't actually see cookbook in there too much anymore, but you still do, but they'll give it a fancy name, but basically it's that. It's just a bunch of recipes. Okay, so if they're all basically the same with like little nuances and stuff like that, we won't have to like summarize one specific one. We can just say, hey, if it comes to a book, it's probably going to be a cookbook. There are hundreds of cookbooks out there. They're basically and we'll summarize it in general. Now, I do have a specific journal article, and for that one, you'll just basically focus on what exactly is this one article saying, and that would be your summary. So I'm going to erase this right here, and I'm going to go ahead and just sort of show you what it could look like. Let's say at the beginning here you go, the topic of breakfast is a popular one with modern authors. From professional dietitians to everyday, by the way, when everyday is one word, it means just commonplace, to everyday web blogs, people seem to enjoy this topic. The sources that follow are representative of the majority of work. Okay, that's it. Your opening paragraph could be something like that. I expect it to be maybe a little more fine-tuned than that, but that it serves its purpose, right? You're just introducing the topic. Now, one more serious piece is the article. I actually forget the name, but something like Breakfast and Heart Attacks. From American Heart Association's publication, what is it? Circulation. The authors, I don't know who they are, suggest that, okay, what am I going to do with the rest of this? I'm going to tell you the thesis. I'm going to tell you how they did the study. And then I'm done. Or I might say a sentence like, although this particular article had a particular thesis, in general, it represents the way academic articles are written about this topic. They usually focus on breakfast and its correlation to a health disease, a health problem, or health benefit. That's it. All right, but if you're going to mention a specific article, then you definitely need to summarize it. You need to give the thesis and the main points and the methodology. How did they do it? They looked at 29,000 men or whatever. Okay, fine. Middle-aged men. Now, what about the next paragraph? Another typical piece is the bite-sized report. One such report, from NPD, I forget the actual name, titled, and give the title, says, okay, so you see what I'm doing? This is just another paragraph, and you summarize it. So think of the summary you wrote for Farewell My Mailbox. Can you do that 4 times? And every now and then you can interject your own voice, but very minimally. Okay, so it's not as if you're writing a critique where you really focus on your evaluation as a critic. Here you're doing your readers a service. Okay, you're saying, look, you're interested in X, the topic X, whatever. In this case, breakfast and that sort of thing. Let me show you what the sources out there kind of look like. I'll talk about some specifically, and then I'll talk about them as classes. Just generally, this is what this type of source will do. And you're just trying to bring your reader up to speed with what the sources are like. And it really helps if you can use some specific ones. All right? And that's what a review of literature is. Now, if ever a review of literature is a stand-alone essay, now it's going to be that way for us because I want to assign it a separate grade. It takes a little while to learn how to write it and that sort of thing. But professionally, a review of literature almost always finds its place in the beginning part of a larger piece. And I'll bring in some journal articles, or I'll scan them and put them on course sites. So you can see right at the beginning, an author will put the subtitle, Review of Literature, and there you go. And then they'll move on to their thesis, and they'll work it out. If it's ever a standalone essay professionally, It's for other researchers. It's a research aid. And they'll call it that. They'll call it a compilation of sources. Or they'll call it a meta study. Have you ever heard that word, meta study? Or a meta article or a meta study or a meta review or whatever means a review over all the other reviews. That's all it means. Meta is, we use it to refer to like a step above. So I'm talking with language, you here, right? Language. I'm using language to talk to you about popular sources and a review of literature and all that. Okay, meta language is language that talks about language. You see what I'm saying? So these are reviews. If it's a standalone literature, it's basically a review talking about other reviews. So anyway, they give it all these strange names, but it would be usually for other researchers. So let me ask you this. Have any of you ever run across a standalone review of literature about anything? There might have been a chance some of you have, but basically because you're not, I'm just making the assumption you haven't been so heavily involved with professional research or research at this sorts of levels, at the collegiate level, you might not have run across a standalone review of literature, but it is out there. And you know what? You might run into a teacher that asks you to actually write a review of literature. I used to work in Wisconsin at Concordia University, and that's where I became a diehard Green Bay Packer fan. But anyway, so I had my office here, and then we had this like cubicle partition, and there was the director of graduate studies sitting in the next office, and the guy talked loud. So I could hear everything he was saying. It was very frustrating. But anyway, I can't tell you how many times he would get a phone call from a student complaining about a teacher in graduate school. And the student would say something like this. I couldn't actually hear what the student was saying because I just couldn't. Obviously, the student was on the phone, but the director would start talking like, well, a review of literature is, well, it's a review of literature. It's like, so your teacher's asking you to write a review of literature. This is what she's talking about. No, it's just a review of literature. He didn't know really how to explain it because to him it was like such an obvious concept, But for the student, it was like, I don't know what do I do when I write a review of literature? What am I reviewing? Literature? This is not about literature. This is about nursing or whatever. No. It's not about books or novels. It's about the studies of nursing. And so and this happened over and over again. I kid you not. And finally I determined, I don't care what level I'm teaching, if it's freshman or senior or master's level, I'm going to talk to them about how to write a review of literature. Just because, and academic work, which is what I've been trying to do with this class, right? Give you skills that help you with your writing across college. You probably will run into professors that would appreciate a review of literature in your research paper or in your project. You slip it in on the third slide in your PowerPoint, or they might even ask for it as a standalone essay. So let's learn how to do it, okay? I'm gonna stop this.